Hello everyone, it's Stefan from Love in New York again. In this video, I want to show you that New York with kids is really amazing. I've personally been to New York 3 times with our kids, from when they were really little all the way up to when our daughter was almost a teenager. And in this video, I also want to share my kids' insights to show you which attractions are worth it and which aren't, the best ways to get around the city, where you should stay and eat, and how to make your vacation totally stress-free. So if that's something you're interested in, you're in exactly the right place with this video. Let's get started. The first point is about getting from the airport. So how do you actually get from the airport to your accommodation? This is a topic I get a ton of emails from you guys about. To put it simply, if you arrive in New Jersey, meaning at New York Airport, you have the option to take the express bus or use Uber. Both options are really great and are quick, easy ways to get into Manhattan, for example, without any hassle. If you arrive at JFK, you have a few more options. Option number 1 is, once again, Uber. Why? Because in the app, you can specify that you need car seats for kids. Yellow cabs, unfortunately, aren't really an option for you because in practice, I can tell you they usually don't have a car seat with them. So yellow cabs are just out of the question. The second alternative, I'm just mentioning it here, I've never done it myself, is that you can take the air train and the train into Manhattan. Why didn't I do that? It was just way too stressful for me to have to transfer with the kids and all that. Point number 3, and this is something I can really recommend to you. There are private transfers. I'll link that for you because there are only a handful of providers where you can actually book a child seat in their SUV, and depending on how many people you have, there are transfers for up to 3 people or up to 6 people. You can get to your accommodation pretty cheaply and very reliably. The convenient thing about it is you'll be greeted with a little sign, so you really won't have any hassle at all. Alternative number 4 is if you've already brought a child seat with you for the USA. I'll go into more detail on this point later. So now you're in the city and you're wondering, what's the easiest way to get from point A to point B? One thing up front, New York really isn't very accessible. You'll often come across high curbs. Not all elevators work in the subway, if there are even elevators at all. That means if you need a stroller or a buggy, you should really make sure it's lightweight and easy to fold up quickly. Something else you'll notice is how helpful New Yorkers are. Whenever we were standing somewhere looking like we needed help, people would come up and ask us. That's really nice. Now, about the subway, your kids ride for free if they're shorter than 44 inches. That's about 110 centimeters. If your kids are taller than that, they pay the regular fare. There are no children's rates. Paying is also super easy. The MetroCard is gone now, and there's only the digital version, which is called OMNY. And there, you basically just tap your smartwatch if you have a credit card linked to it, or your credit card itself, or your phone with a credit card linked to it. Just tap it on the card reader, and then everyone can go through one after another. You have to pay for each person individually. Very important. If you know you'll be using the subway a lot, it makes sense to keep in mind that each payment method is assigned to one person. Why? Because then you can take advantage of the fare cap, this unlimited ride option. It's worth it starting from the 13th ride within 1 week. One more thing. If you're traveling by road trip, I recommend ordering an American child car seat from Walmart. You can pre-order them and pick them up, or just go there directly and take one with you. They always have a huge selection. That's what we did, and we actually brought them back to Germany with us. Last time, we sold them on eBay Classifieds. This isn't an ad, we just didn't need them anymore because our kids are simply too big now. But before that, you could actually do it the other way around. Buy a used one on eBay Classifieds and take it with you right away. And very important, US child car seats have a different standard than the German or European ones. That's why the option I recommended earlier makes sense. Now, let's move on to hotels. I recommend staying at hotels in Manhattan because that way everything's just much closer. That way, at the beginning or end of the day, you don't have to deal with a transfer, which can sometimes take up to an hour if you're going all the way to New Jersey, depending on where you are in the city. That's why my personal recommendation is to book hotels in Manhattan. First and foremost, I can recommend the Marriott Marquis Hotel. I've tested it myself. You'll also find a detailed video about it here on the channel. I'll link it for you below because they also have large family rooms. Number two, if you want a kitchen and breakfast, then apart hotels are interesting since they come with a small kitchenette. For that, I can recommend the Residence Inn Manhattan Times Square. It's near Bryant Park. Then there's the Homewood Suites Midtown Manhattan, which is close to Hudson Yards, and also the Hyatt House Chelsea, which is near the Empire State Building. Another place I can recommend is the M Social Times Square. Normally, I never book hotels with breakfast included. That was the only time I did, and I also saw a lot of families with kids there because they told me, since I actually asked them about it, that it's a great way for them to save money. The extra charge for having breakfast included at the hotel means they don't have to look for a new diner every morning, and that was something that really helped them relax. So if that's an option for you, check out the M Social at Times Square. Another thing, you need to watch out for deals. The hotel way out in the meatpacking district. I stayed there with our kids in the summer when it was blazing hot, and they have a pool on the roof. It was really awesome, but unfortunately, what's been happening lately is that kids can only go up there until noon, so after that, it's just adults. Yeah, no more fun with jumping in, singing songs and all that. Nevertheless, the Gansevoort Hotel is another option I can recommend to you. I've also linked all these hotels for you down below. If you book through those links, it costs you exactly the same as if you booked directly, for example on booking.com. But I do get a small commission for it. That really helps me a lot to keep making more videos. A huge massive thank you in advance. And now let's get to the best attractions and tours that our kids, and I think your kids too, will really enjoy. What can you do especially well in New York that not many other cities offer? You can get an amazing view of the city from the observation decks. It's like a hidden object book, but in real life. First and foremost, and I asked my kids while preparing for this video, so right before I came here to film, I asked them which highlights stuck in their minds. The Edge is one of them, especially with that glass floor you can stand on. Fun fact, not both kids and not both parents were brave enough to walk across it on the first try. It really is an absolute attraction. Then there's the World Observatory. Why? Down there at the southern tip of Manhattan, you get an amazing view of all the ship traffic going by. Governor's Island. Of course, you can also look out toward Brooklyn, Midtown, and so on, but the view to the south, toward the Statue of Liberty with all the boats and ferries, really fascinated our kids. The summit is also included. We checked that out during our last visit. They thought it was amazing because it's really more of an experience than just a regular observation deck with all the mirrored surfaces and everything. So that was the third observation deck that was a big highlight for us. I can also recommend the American Museum of Natural History. If your kids are a bit older, they probably know it from Night at the Museum. From a gigantic dinosaur to tons of little details, you definitely won't get bored there. I can also recommend the Met to you, at least in part. But that really depends on your kids' interests and how old they are. For example, I thought the exhibit with the pyramid was just absolutely stunning. And it gives you a great insight into history, which you probably only knew from books or movies before. The Statue of Liberty. Yeah, I know. I mentioned that in my video, and I got a lot of comments saying you don't really need to visit the Statue of Liberty, that there are cooler ways to see it. That video has over 100,000 views. So as you can see, it's definitely a hot topic. As always, I'll link it for you at the end and also down below. But I still went to the Statue of Liberty. Why? If you want to do it anyway, or your kids want to do it, then don't ever let anyone talk you out of it. By the way, I also said that in the video. So my little one really wanted to go there. I said, okay, then let's go check it out. And what can I say? That's what it's all about. The kids had a great time, got to see this world famous attraction up close, and just had an awesome day. And we gave them the audio guide so they could walk around with it. That was really a lot of fun. Something I should definitely mention, both kids told me this, they loved the High Line and Little Island at the end. Why the High Line? We were there in the summer when it was really warm. There are plenty of places where you can relax on benches. You can also sit in the shade because it's really nice and green. There are also lots of areas where you can play with water, where they could walk barefoot through the water and so on. That was a lot of fun for them. And also Little Island. Not just because of the shape of the concrete pillars, but also because of the music events that are always happening there, and because you just get an absolutely beautiful view of New York. So those definitely need to be included. I can also send you information about the hop-on, hop-off bus tour to your home. They start at Times Square. That's where the route begins, taking you uptown, past Central Park, and downtown all the way down to the financial district, down to Battery Park. I would especially recommend the downtown loop because in a pretty short time, you'll pass by lots and lots of famous attractions. What we did was get off at Battery Park to take a look toward the Statue of Liberty. That's basically the equivalent on the water end. We also really liked using the NYC Ferry. It's a super affordable way to get around on the waterways, like the Hudson River or especially the East River. So you should definitely check out the NYC Ferry too. It's also super cheap and a nice, relaxing way to pass the time. Plus, the kids can rest a bit along the way. Then there are 2 more parks. I'll go into more detail about those later. Brooklyn Bridge Park really made an impression on the kids because you get an amazing view there. You have the Brooklyn Bridge, which we walked back across, and you have the Manhattan Bridge. Plus, you can see the One World Observatory. They thought it was really beautiful. And of course, Central Park. There are great playgrounds, awesome spots where you can just chill and be among New Yorkers without it feeling stressful. You know, I'm a big fan of Soho, even if you're out and about with kids. This is where that thing about the high curbs I mentioned earlier comes in. A lot of places there aren't accessible, but there are plenty of cute little cafes. Sometimes it's actually really quiet, and you can just move around easily and relax without having to worry that you'll suddenly run into a 4-lane street. We always found that super relaxing too. That's why West Village and Greenwich Village are on the list, 2 wonderfully laid-back places. We often went there for breakfast too. There are nice playgrounds there. I still think they're wonderful to this day. And then there's DUMBO too, because there's a lot to see there as well. And you can relax by the water, there are several playgrounds, and you get that gorgeous view of New York skyscrapers. Speaking of playgrounds, my goodness, there are so many, and so many beautiful ones. First and foremost, Pier 26 deserves a mention. That's such a beautiful playground. By the way, that's also where Grand Banks is, one of my favorite spots. We went there with the kids too. Great playground, always with a view of One World Observatory. In the summer, we were at Pier 54 with water features, and the kids love splashing around barefoot in the water. I can recommend the Heckscher Playground to you. It's at the southwestern lower corner of Central Park. The kids can play. There's a huge selection of slides and climbing structures, and we adults can proudly watch our kids. And you have the skyscrapers of Billionaires Row behind you. So it's just wonderful. And I've already mentioned Brooklyn Bridge Park. They actually have 2 playgrounds. The one near Jane's Carousel is where we easily spent 4 or 5 hours. I told you, these are fun spots for the kids. Definitely for the kids. I don't know if it's so fun for your travel budget, but our kids had a blast. Number 1 is the M&M Megastore. Definitely not a secret tip anymore. Same goes for the Disney store in Times Square. But our kids loved seeing a huge selection of colorful things, from stuff they knew from movies or just things they really like. The Harry Potter store is another one. That's more the case if your kids are into the whole Harry Potter thing. It's a super cool place. I can only highly recommend it. I also have a separate video about it here on the channel. And then there's the Lego store at Rockefeller Center. That's right next to FAO Schwartz. Just remembered, that's also at Rockefeller Center. On to the next point. What would I not do? I don't think the 9/11 Memorial Museum is for kids because it's a super emotional topic and honestly a really tough subject. I'd only recommend it if you're traveling with teenagers, so if your kids are a bit older and can handle those kinds of things. I've made a video about New York with teenagers and about the 9/11 Memorial Museum. You can find both of them here on the channel and further down below. I can't recommend either the Bronx Zoo or the Central Park Zoo. So if you're a total zoo fan, definitely go, but I can tell you the animals look just like the ones we have at our zoos here. That's why it was never on my list. And unfortunately, you also can't go to rooftop bars in the evening. I love rooftop bars, you guys know that, and I really do get a lot of questions about them. And no, it's not possible. There are really strict controls, there's no way around it. But what you can do is some selected rooftop bars let you go in for free in the afternoon. So that option does exist. I know it works at the 230 Fifth Avenue rooftop bar with a view of the Empire State Building. I know you can do it at the Refinery rooftop too, also with a view of the Empire State Building. And it also works at Harriet's, is the rooftop bar at the One Hotel, Brooklyn Bridge. Kids can also go up there during the day. I know, I've done it myself. Now, let's get to a point that's also pretty important. Where can you eat out with kids? Yeah, that's a big topic. So I actually asked my kids again for this video, which places did you really like? Chelsea Market was mentioned. Why? Because we had some really delicious tacos there. Time Out in Brooklyn was also mentioned. You can go up there and look out over Brooklyn Bridge Park. Italy in the financial district. Amazing pasta, really great pizza, always a good tip. A great restaurant is Carmine's, an Italian place at Times Square. And like I said, in the evenings when we were often just in a hurry, we grabbed a slice of pizza to take back to the hotel, and the kids were happy. One more thing I should mention, especially from my daughter's perspective, the burgers at Shake Shack. Yeah, so what can I say? My little one, he had the hot dogs. Lena liked the Shake Shack burgers. I like them too. That's why they're included in this video. And like I said, what we often did there, just like in Germany, was go to the supermarket, grab some water, pick up some fruit, or get fruit from a deli. Just on the go like that. And you find that a lot, for example, in neighborhoods like I mentioned earlier, in Greenwich, or the West Village, or Soho. So that was basically a routine there, just like we did here in Germany. I've got some money-saving tips for you. Number one, first and foremost, most attractions offer free admission if your kids are up to 5 years old. You don't have to worry about tickets or anything like that. You also don't need to worry about getting a New York pass or any of the New York passes for your kids. In general though, if your kids are older than 5, it's worth looking into the New York passes. What I always did was get the smallest flexible pass. For me, it was the Explorer Pass because I just didn't want any stress and wanted to save a little money. Saving's the key word here too. Check out lovingnewyork.de/spanded. There, I have the latest comparison with all the discount codes included. And I also have a savings calculator. I'll link that for you below, as well as in the QR codes that I'll show in a moment. You can simply select what you're interested in, and then it'll calculate whether a pass is worth it or not. And if you're not sure, always go for the smaller pass. Sightseeing shouldn't be stressful, and you can often book attractions spontaneously on site. Feel free to do that through my app too. I've saved all the ticket links there. That also supports me. The app is free, it's the Loving New York app. I'll link that for you below as well. Alright, final stretch. There's one more topic I want to cover, bathrooms. Where can you go if you're in museums or at major attractions? They always have restrooms. Of course, you can only get in if you have a ticket. But big department stores like Macy's or food halls and food markets all have restrooms you can use. I've also had times when we just walked into a hotel and said, "Oh, we have a little emergency here. Could we use your restroom?" And that's what I meant about how polite people are in New York. We were never turned away. And of course, there's a Starbucks on every corner. If you ask nicely, you can use the restrooms for free in almost all of them. We usually did it as a little thank you too. We just grab a coffee while we were there because we love coffee. And then it was totally fine for them because often you have to be a customer to use the restroom. But of course, there are always exceptions to the rule. So my dears, that was my long video about New York with kids. I also have a brand new ebook about it. If you want everything summarized in a compact way, you can find it in my shop, and it's also linked below. Plus, I'll put a QR code here as well. Our kids always had an awesome time in New York, so New York is a really cool city, even with kids. With that in mind, I hope this helped clear up any doubts you had about planning this trip. If you have any questions, feel free to write them in the comments and I'll link 2 more videos for you now. Number 1, things you shouldn't miss in New York. And number 2, if your kids are a bit older, New York with teenagers, what you can do there. Thank you so much for watching the video. Remember, if you enjoyed it, subscribing to the channel is free for you. And I'd say, I'll see you in one of the next 2 videos. Bye! Yours, Stefan from Loving New York.